we are very honoured to have Paul Cadger here with us, who is the dementia lead for Cornwall, education lead for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. And Paul has always, every year, for how many years is the conference? For 3 years, organises the yearly dementia conference, 2026 this year then.
Yeah, that's it. I'm looking forward to next year already.
Amazing.
Yeah,
so what's the theme this year? Is there a theme?
We always just try and go with how can you live well with dementia, and that can be like lots of things. So we had creativity on first thing. We then did like touch, and you got music later on. We also done about advanced care planning, supporting somebody, because dementia is a terminal illness, and we also want to face on some of the things we're not very good at in Cornwall. So Cornwall's one of the worst, unfortunately, for identifying somebody in their last year of life with dementia compared to the rest of the UK.
Wow.
I know, it's pretty. So 1 in 5 in the UK are on your general practitioner's end of life register, and in Cornwall it's 1 in 20.
That's shocking.
It is, isn't it? And that's why we had Professor Brazil from University of Belfast come in and do a talk on how can we recognise it, how can we support people, because it's a taboo in our culture to talk about death, even though every single one of us is doing it. So that's one of the, yes, we'd like to do lots of themes about what we want to improve on.
Yeah.
And also how can we live well.
What are you seeing exciting occurring this year, or what have you seen that's exciting occurring?
So in Cornwall, we do have a regular contact with somebody with dementia. So you've got like either the Alzheimer's Society, Memory Matters, or Cornwall Disability form up our dementia advisor service, or you've got a primary care dementia practitioner for somebody who needs a bit more support, and then for those who need really high intense support, you've got your community mental health team. So we do have that, and that's for people in their own home.
And that's a strong structure.
That is a really good. So
and that's been growing, hasn't it?
Exactly, and we need that, because that means that regular contact, that somebody I can pick up my phone, I've got a problem with my dad, or I've got a problem with my mum, your wife. Who can I speak to? So your buddy.
Yeah.
So that is really good in Cornwall, and we know we're merging with Devon, and Devon doesn't have the same support. So it'll be this really
I think that's
challenging
what they
time.
were saying. Yeah.
So that's what I mean. With Devon, we've got some really good things that we're doing, and Devon is that we can help them get up their game.
Yeah.
Whereas the rest of the UK, everything's good. Lots of things are happening that we don't do.
Right.
So an urgent crisis response team is something that we're really looking into. So we find my dad with dementia, he's got like a urine infection, and he's constipated, and he's just become delirious, so like an acute on chronic.
Yes.
And that we don't have that support. Like if you can't manage it at home, you're going into hospital. It's not like I've got a crisis support team. We can go in, we can get extra carers in 24/7. What can we do to help you? Because it's all about the care and knowing what is delirium, how will that be over the next 24, 48 hours, what's it going to be like in 2 weeks, how is the recovery like, because if we can get the support at home,
and access maybe to extra medication or all sorts of things that be sort of out of hours,
24/7 care.
Amazing. And what about another one that I'm interested in is transport, because somebody earlier was talking about that as well, because there's lots of services out there, and there are still people stuck at home that don't necessarily. Is anything being considered around that?
What do we call it? Equity, isn't it? So it may be that if you're living in Truro, Camborne, or like an urbanish area, you don't really get many urbanish areas in Cornwall, but you'll probably have quite a good provision. Whereas the more rural you get, so I'm Helston, so if you went further out to the Lizard, it's very different. So I also work in trauma as a physio. We don't have an early support and discharge orthopaedic team going out into the Lizard, because we just don't have the staff to do it, and it's so rural. So it's really difficult and challenging, because say for example you're in a built-up city, I could probably walk to people's houses about who's my next on my list. I can plan that, whereas it could be a 40-minute drive. Imagine from the Roseland all the way around. So you've got to kind of consider how we got to have the support and stuff, and that all comes down to money, unfortunately. What's really interesting when we do dementia training events, when we go to like village halls, the amount of stuff that's available in local areas. So we did one down at St Just, and the free pubs in St Just, this is by Penzance, clubbed together to fund like a transport service.
Yes, it's a smaller, really, St Just is a really strong community, so they're all pulling together. I think Mullion is the same.
It's not everywhere.
Yeah, but it's not everywhere. Sometimes the places are a bit more remote, or the villages have been lost, and it's,
And we know driving, so 1/3 of people with dementia are legally driving. So that means there's 2/3 of people who have lost that level of independence, and they're now more dependent. But they do say, like, if you drive less than 3,000 miles a year, it's cheaper to get a taxi.
Wow.
I know, because all the MOT,
That's
insurance.
amazing to know.
So it's kind of like weighing it all up. What is it? And my granddad had Parkinson's dementia, and his car was a state. Before he got rid of it, had to get rid of it, and he was like,
Wow.
I didn't like driving him at that stage. We took him to the pub.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, well, thank you, Paul,
you're
and
good,
thank you for all the work that you do, and it's really
Next year.
exciting.
It's a good day. It's a good day. I'm happy.
Yay.
Yeah, I won't see much of it. I'll have to watch back on the videos afterwards.
Yes.
So if anyone wants if you can't make it today and you want to see the recording, email me paul.cadger, CADGER, at nhs.net, and we'll get you a recording of the whole day's events.
We're very honoured to have Dr. Alison Hibbert here with us today, who is the chair of this magnificent dementia conference. And tell us your job, or your job title, because you've got quite a few, haven't you?
A few hats. So I'm a GP by background, and I've got an interest in older adults. I work up at Launceston Community Hospital for Cornwall Foundation Trust. I've also been helping recently in the memory service. But my role here today really is as the voluntary chair of the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Dementia Partnership. The Dementia Partnership is a collaboration of lots of organisations across Cornwall. We nickname ourselves Team Dementia, but I can't name all of the organisations off my top of my head, but I think some statutory ones. We've got the Fire Service, Cornwall Council, NHS, the big kind of hospitals. We've got loads of kind of voluntary sector kind of partners, Disability Cornwall, Alzheimer's Society, Memory Matters, we've got Age UK, we've got PROMAS, Sensory Trust.
It's amazing,
And there's various people from different kind of roles, loads of us, and we come together, call ourselves sort of Team Dementia. Essentially, we were born out of the old Dementia Action Alliance, but we are there to kind of network, raise awareness, and deliver it. Join people together. People living with dementia and their carers have told us for a number of years they want to see organisations working together and having better conversations, and that is what it is at the heart of the partnership. Really
Amazing. And it is really inspiring to see everybody come together and people know each other, and that those friendships and connections are formed. So what's been inspiring so far for you today? And you've been introducing us all, and
so I think it's just the people with lived experience, hearing people's stories. It is difficult out there. Problems are kind of real, but there's lots of us that are remaining kind of like passionate and determined to keep making kind of improvements. Everybody's sharing ideas, lots of chitter chatter, familiar faces, new faces, getting other people on what we call Team Dementia. But just trying to make things kind of better. Today, particularly, the holistic focus for me is important. Person-centred care, looking after the person, caring. I think there's just loads of range of topics today, haven't there been?
Yes, really. I love that word you've used, holistic, and just seeing the amazing talent as well that's out there doing great work. Anything exciting that you're hearing about that we might get the lowdown on around what's coming, or if there's any shifts or changes or anything exciting in the pipeline?
So that later on there's a bit of talk around the carers service and kind of development of services. It's been brilliant to hear about existing services. The partnership itself are working on a website for Cornwall. A bit of fundraising that the partnership did with colleagues and friends and people living with dementia helped us raise money. You'll probably find us at the you will find us at the Royal Cornwall Show. The Cornwall Isles of Scilly Dementia Partnership have a stand this year just to open up conversations, raise awareness. There's quite a lot kind of coming on really. And we do still have a really strong education programme in Cornwall, and that's important to us. So Paul Cadger, who's the brains behind the development of the conference, works for Cornwall Health, can be contacted by you guys to find out more about education that we can provide for volunteers, for services, just to help raise awareness really.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Alison. So we're really lucky to be talking to Jane Howard, who has just given her keynote talk. And Jane, tell us about what you were talking about, what your offering was.
Okay, so I run a social enterprise which is all about the value of the arts and culture and creativity in health and well-being, and there is so much evidence about how engaging with arts and culture and being creative helps people with dementia. So I was talking about how that works, I was talking about the growing evidence base for that work, and really hoping to put people in the mindset of This is about people, this is about individuals. Yes, we're interested in diagnosis and symptoms and clinical need, but this is about humanity. This is about how do we work with people as human beings. And the arts is a fantastic way to absolutely connect with people and allow them to express themselves and their identity, even if they've got failing senses or cognitive abilities.
That's so inspiring. And so that's what's brought you to the Dementia Conference.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've worked in the field of creativity and health for about 20 years.
Wow.
And over that time, I've done lots and lots of work in care homes with older people with dementia. It's a hugely rewarding area of practice. Lots of artists I work with say it's the best work they do because they get so much from it. To see people who may look unresponsive and contained within their dementia to suddenly come alive through just a little prompt, a little bit of engagement, an invitation to dance, a piece of music.
Gorgeous.
It's just wonderful, yeah.
So what is inspiring you at the moment in your field of work?
I think it sounds a bit dull because it sounds about the research, but the research and the evidence base for this work is grown massively over the last few years. And I think what we're now seeing is research that shows us that engaging with arts and culture and being creative is really good preventative stuff as well. If you engage regularly in things like going to concerts or galleries or theatre, your risk of dementia is 43% less than people who don't. And that is even when you take account of factors like education and social class and wealth and all of that.
Wow.
So it's hugely important in preventative ways, and I think there's really interesting research around that. And if we can get people to think about everyday creativity, that's good for all of us. But it's really good then if you do become ill, if you do develop dementia, you've still got ways of expressing yourself, ways of being a human being and engaging with other people. And I think that's really exciting.
Thank you so much. I am here with the most amazing women from Disability Cornwall who are right there on the ground, grassroots, working in the field of looking after people in the cafes and out there. And I'm just going to ask you, tell us about your work and what's inspiring you about this conference, Becky.
So I'm a dementia advisor. I work in the Penzance and St Just area with folks with dementia and their carers. I do home visits and we do social support. I love the arts and the massage piece we've just listened to. I'm really passionate about that personally, but just witnessing in the Memory Cafe when people suddenly come alive because they recognise a song, or just when they're very withdrawn and then we're doing a pottery or an art session and they just get engaged, it really, it's quite moving actually. It really makes you kind of choke up to sort of find that way of expressing. I think it's really important. I think we need to bring it in more.
We so do. And it seems so obvious, doesn't it, that beyond words or beyond the intellect, just being able to express ourselves artistically or with the senses is so important. All right, Suze, come on, tell us what's been inspiring you and what's your work?
So I'm Operations Support Officer at Disability Cornwall, and a part of my role within that is to support the Cornwall Memory Cafe network and do all the boring kind of admin-y stuff for each memory cafe and their membership and their meetings and things like that. And it's been really good this morning to learn about creativity, and I know they spoke about music, and I've heard from the volunteers at the Memory Cafes so many times that a particular song has played and someone who hasn't spoken in years or has never spoken at the sessions has all of a sudden started singing, and so it's really, they've recognised something that's triggered something, and then all of a sudden they come to life. So I think it's really important. Music and movement and dementia is really important.
It's
it
massive.
comes alongside.
Thank you. And so you coordinate all the memory cafes, keeping everybody together, helping everything seamlessly know what's going on.
Yes, Well, the cafes, they run themselves actually. The volunteers run them.
Yeah.
It's all their time and their dedication.
Praise the volunteers.
Yes, and I'm like the Viney network bit
You
that
are.
keeps them all connected.
You are. You're an amazing woman. And
Thank you.
so we've got Kate Smith here from Memory Matters.
Hello.
Hello. What's inspiring you from the Dementia Conference
It's
so
been lovely
far?
just to be around loads of people that think like you do.
Yeah.
And all going in the same direction, all really interested, all trying to do their best, all trying to think of different ways of sparking people with dementia that little bit further, going that little bit extra mile. And it's just lovely, just lots of different ideas, but also seeing everybody. I mean, it's a bit like coming back to a family, isn't it? Because you see all these people that professionally you're on the phone to and you're emailing and all of a sudden they've got legs because you see them off a screen, and it's so lovely to be in touch and learn from each other.
And you sort of feel like, oh, look, there's all these people doing great work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It is
amazing,
lovely.
amazing.
And Cornwall is the best place, to be fair, to be. I mean, I work across Devon too.
Do you?
Yeah, so we cover Devon and Cornwall. Cornwall's way better, let me just say, actually. If I was going to have dementia, I'm having it in Cornwall. I might just, I live in Plymouth, but I'm toying with just going across
the
when I
border.
retire, because quite frankly, it's way better than anywhere else.
Wow. So anything you've seen this morning that you thought was great, or anything you're interested in thinking, oh, I'm looking forward to hearing about that?
Yeah, and I guess part of that is, we do quite a lot with creativity anyway. So obviously hearing Jane Howard talk, and I've known Jane for a really, really long time. She always inspires me that little bit further, just to think a bit more about creativity. But also the touch thing too. I think everyone's quite afraid of touch sometimes.
So true, isn't it?
And quite afraid of just going that extra mile. Can I touch somebody? Are they going to get cross about it?
Yeah.
But actually just being able to just go, actually I'm going to feel a bit braver, and I'm going to see where that takes me, and I'm going to use touch a bit more and see if it's okay for people.
That's so amazing. It is. It's lovely. I always ask permission. Say, can I give you a hug?
Yeah, I'm a massive hugger though.
Yeah.
I overstep sometimes. I hugged a policeman the other day, which I thought was a bit weird, but he was up for it. So.
And anything that's exciting you for the future of dementia in Cornwall and Devon? What's
I think
coming through?
There's a renewed vigour, and I've worked in dementia in Cornwall, 17 years now.
Wow.
And the journey that I've seen over the past 17 years has been huge. In fact, and thinking about how we look after the services we've got in our communities, but also making that really accessible for people.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the integrated neighbourhood teams are really starting to think about their own communities and the kind of support services that they can bring into their GP surgeries or their local health and wellbeing hubs, or just having it really accessible. We know travel is a nightmare for people with dementia in Cornwall. And why aren't we making things accessible in their community? And I love that. I think it's a great idea and a great way of making sure that people can get out there and do what they need to do without worrying whether they can get a bus or a taxi or making it a bit more accessible.
That is really exciting.
Yeah, it is really cool.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yes. Tell us, why are you at the Dementia Conference today?
Because I work as a dementia music therapist in now 5 care homes in and around Exeter. I'm based in Topsham, which is just south of Exeter, and I'm also a freelance musician.
Lovely.
And a music teacher, and I work every other weekend at B&Q as well to keep my contact with the general public going. It's a great way to remember how varied people are, and to see the population at large and interact with them. I worked in schools for 25 years, and I do work in one school 1 day a week now as well, but it's good to stay in contact with lots of people.
Amazing. So how are you finding the Dementia Conference? Is it first year for you?
It's my first time here. Yeah, it's really good actually. Everything has been fantastic so far. I've learned a lot and met some good people.
Yeah. Anything standing out for you of what you've learnt so far, or what's shone out?
I think just the general shift in awareness as to what dementia is. I think we're really moving away from it being, oh yeah, they're losing their memory. This whole awareness of it's far broader picture than that. It can affect so many different things. The talk on palliative care now, embracing that. 25 years ago, I worked within the palliative care community in the largest hospice in the UK, in Clapham, and palliative care back then was all very cancer
to a certain degree motor neuron disease focused as well, and sometimes Huntington's and things like that, but predominantly cancer. There is barely any mention of dementia now, and that's really shifted, which is, I think, a very positive thing.
So positive. So paint a picture then for us on a day in the life of you working in a care home as a music therapist.
I turn up, I go in with my piano accordion and my guitar, and sometimes my cello on my back as well.
Wow.
So I do a mixture of things. I'd say about 3/4 of my work is one-to-one. So I will work one-to-one, often in residence rooms.
Wow.
Hearing their stories and just pulling at a thread of something that they might say either about who they are or where they've been, more often than not, how they're feeling that day. And sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down, sometimes a bit confused, and we'll just investigate that. And then that will lead to a song. And I try and vary the material as much as possible to respond to where they're at.
Beautiful.
And very often that song will then lead somewhere else, and you go on this journey. And it's important to be as responsive and free and just follow the gut feeling really as to where we're going to go, because they get a sense that we're on this journey as well. And then after a given time, I could be in there 15 minutes, sometimes 20, sometimes 30, depends how they're feeling, and move along, and I'll see someone else.
So do you make the songs up spontaneously, or is it from a library, a collection of songs that you've brought and you feel into?
So that's a great question. I think that it's predominantly songs that I already know.
Yeah.
Okay. But there are certain songs, and this is the other part of the work that I do, because I do work with groups as well. I work with sort of singing groups in there, or sometimes I go into the living room in a dementia corridor, dementia ward, and they will be sat there and reading the room. Sometimes they want to be involved collectively, sometimes somebody's got the TV on really loudly, they don't want anything to do with me.
Yeah.
Then I will do some sort of a group activity song, and I try and involve something that can be creative for them as well. Now, sea shanties are great for that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can make up a verse about something.
Yeah.
And if I make up a verse, I say, oh, give me an idea, and they come up with something, and then I include them in that.
That's amazing.
They respond really well to that. They love it because they feel like they are creating. They don't just feel like they're creating. They actually are creating.
Yes.
And I'm fashioning it to music and getting them involved.
And there's nothing more unifying than singing. It's such good fun. It's such good fun. Well, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
For all your work that you're doing. Bless you.
It's a huge pleasure, and one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. It's something where you can really see the difference. My mum always said to me, always aim to leave a place better than you find it. And I think working in dementia care, that's a great thing to remember, because it is so tangible that is something that we can do.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
So we have Dr. Vicky Brown here today at the Dementia Conference. Vicky, what's brought you here today?
So I'm retired now, and I no longer work in the dementia field. So this for me is a lovely chance to catch up with the people I don't meet anymore, and to learn about what's going on in the world of dementia, see all the amazing new developments, which is just so encouraging to know what's all been going on while I've not been looking.
Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, and so I think I heard someone else saying that, is how heartwarming it is to see all these amazing people that all gather together, that are all doing great work.
Yeah, I was really moved by the kind of focus on the arts this time. I've really enjoyed hearing Jane and Nicole talking about, massage and the arts, and then having that stuff with Made, they were called, weren't they? At the end, with the dancing and the music. So
that is it. I asked Paul Cadger about that. I said, is there a theme this year? And he, because it does feel like that. It feels like this acknowledgement that beyond, that beyond the intellect, there is this beautiful need for expression.
Yeah, sort of a really holistic, whole spirit approach, which I think is nice.
So that's been the main thing that's inspired you?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, it's not quite so cheerful, but hearing the Professor Kevin, I can't remember his surname, talking about advanced care planning, how important that is, different approaches, and how it's important to start early, made me think maybe I should start thinking, because everyone should think about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much, and
My pleasure, Anna.
it's great
Lovely
to bump
see
into you again.
Really lovely to bump into you.
So we're very lucky to have John Whitton here today, who's a neuroscientist. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
At Exeter University, and we found him at the Dementia Conference, and we're going to ask him what's it all about then? What do you get up to, and how does your work link to dementia?
Well, so yeah, as a lecturer, there's sort of several hats that I wear from time to time. So part of my role is in delivering undergraduate teaching and teaching students. Then another part of my role is doing research and running a lab that investigates principally learning and how we adapt to flexibly to accommodate new situations.
Wow.
And of course, that's something that's very close to dementia, and something that often goes quite wrong early in dementia.
Right.
And so yes, there's that relationship there with my work on learning. And then another hat that I wear is I coordinate a consortium called the Alzheimer's Research UK Southwest Network Centre.
Oh, that sounds good, doesn't it?
Yes, it's a long title.
Yeah, can you say it again?
The Alzheimer's Research UK Southwest Network Centre.
Amazing.
And so, Alzheimer's Research UK has a number of network centres across the country that really try to support and promote dementia research through bringing researchers together within local geographical communities. So we serve the Southwest, being Bristol, Bath, Exeter and Plymouth. But then also to really get a message out into communities about the kind of work that's going on. So we do aspects of public engagement work and public and patient involvement work as well.
Yes,
And
that sounds fascinating.
Yes, it's that hat that I'm wearing today, I suppose.
It's that hat. So that's why you've come today.
Yeah, that's right.
So you were saying before we started filming that your work, you've always sort of had a connection with learning around dementia.
Yeah, that's
What
that's
do you feel is exciting at the moment or interesting at the moment that you're learning about?
So there's a dramatic amount of progress that's being made in dementia research currently. And I think from a broad perspective, the reason that's been brought about is through the integration of a lot of different research types and strategies that bring together groups of researchers to solve problems from different perspectives or perhaps on a bigger scale. So, for example, there's been a massive explosion in terms of research in genetics and genomics over the past decade.
Just tell us what genomics is.
That's the study of gene expression, or it's how genes are expressed within cells to bring about certain functions within cells.
Yeah, like epigenetics as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So the environment impacting your genes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So there's been a great explosion in that area, but what we're seeing is that being integrated with other areas. So, for example, physiology. So the study then of how things work functionally, how neural systems work.
So systems within the body, the impact of that on the dementia, or creating dementia or not, or
establishing relationships between, I suppose you touched on it there actually, you touched on a really important point. I think what's happened over the past number of years is an increased appreciation of how nature and nurture combine actually. So it is that I suppose that integration of genetics and genomics with physiology, with environmental factors. And so you've really hit the nail on the head actually. I think what that broadly speaks to actually is understanding how nature and nurture can combine to increase dementia risk, but how also there are certain interventions that can be made over the life course as well that diminish dementia risk also, and how that can be done through lifestyle factors.
So that's the nature and the nurture that you could, if you changed your lifestyle, that might have an impact.
Yes, and also the role that treatment and medications can play in that sort of landscape as well. Yeah.
Wow. And so being at the conference today, 2026, what stood out for you? What sort of made you feel excited or shocked you, or what stood out for you so far today?
I think from my perspective, coming at from a more of a fundamental or basic science perspective, it's really important for me to be able to learn about and to understand what happens from a clinical perspective and what happens in care settings as well. There's often a disconnect between these two environments.
Yeah.
And understanding those processes that happen in a clinical context and understanding the challenges that take place in that context as well really helps inform the kind of questions that you would want to ask as a researcher and understand areas of need as well. There's also, I should highlight, there's a bus outside that's provided a sort of sensory dementia experience.
Yes.
That's not something that I've done before, and it was really quite
powerful.
It's quite
isn't
powerful,
it?
yeah. It's quite arresting to go through that actually.
I think so. I think that's probably, I went through it last year, and I think if you work in this field, you need to go on that bus.
Yeah.
You really do. Just to have that compassion.
Yeah, and I think one of the certainly in talking about we were talking about sort of learning earlier, I suppose, and one of the things that has interested me through the work that I've done over probably this decade is how we orient ourselves within the world.
Yeah.
And how that ability to orientate ourselves within the world is something that becomes disrupted very early on by certain dementia-causing illnesses such as Alzheimer's disease. What I'd perhaps not appreciated until going on that bus was how losing the ability to orient other aspects of the world relative to us is the counter side to that. It's the other side of that coin. And so, for example, hearing, let's say, a siren or a car pulling up or something.
Yeah.
When we're able to orient those things within our world, they make sense.
Yeah.
And we're able to
filter them out, or just
exactly.
go, that's okay, that's a police car.
Exactly.
I can still focus.
Whereas when we're not able to do that, they become quite distressing signals rather than just normal parts of everyday life. So, that was something that I certainly learned by just undertaking that tour a few minutes ago.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll hopefully, you never know, we might get you on the podcast again.
Oh well, that'd be fun.
Thank you.